Hey guys, I'm your host Matt, and I'm here to talk about my reaction to the Dolphins versus the Bills on the Matt Newton Football Show. Now, this game was a very difficult game to watch if you're a Miami Dolphins fan for a number of reasons. The first thing is the Tua Tagovailoa concussion that caused them to be ruled out for the remainder of the game. And that was a brutal blow for anybody who's a Dolphin fan. Tua Tagovailoa was scrambling for a first down on 4th and 4, and he was able to pick up the necessary yardage. Unfortunately, he didn't slide and instead decided to go into the defender head first and initiated contact with safety Damar Hamlin, which allowed him to create contact, which caused a head injury and caused him to be ruled out with a concussion. And at the time he was laying on the field, it seemed as though he had some of those markers that would suggest that he was undergoing a serious concussion. So he was immediately ruled out of the game. He was able to walk off the field on his own power, but you just can tell just from his reaction while he was laying on the ground that it wasn't very likely he'd return for this game. And we'll see going forward if and when he decides to return. It'll probably be a while before he does. But for now, the Dolphins will definitely be playing without Tua Tagovailoa for at least 1 week, possibly more. And when you consider his concussion history, he was diagnosed with two concussions officially in 2022. He possibly had a third that season as well. But once he came back from that first concussion that was determined to be a concussion versus Cincinnati, he came back in time and played a few games, but then sustained another head injury against Green Bay, which caused him to be ruled out for the rest of the season. And, it's a tough blow for the Dolphins. He had a great season last season. He was healthy for 17 games, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to stay healthy beyond week 2 of 2024. And it's very discouraging as a Dolphin fan also because it seems like every time he's been injured significantly in this league, it's been to the Buffalo Bills. In 2021, he was injured by AJ Espinoza, who hit him with a helmet to the rib cage, which caused Tua to miss some games with some broken ribs. Then in 2022, it seems as though he was pushed by Matt Milano, which caused him to hit his head on the turf, falling back awkwardly. At the time, it wasn't ruled to be a concussion, but after the Thursday night game in which he played against the Cincinnati Bengals, it revealed that he probably did have a concussion in that game because once he hit his head on the turf versus Cincinnati, it was clear then that he had been diagnosed with a concussion. And it led people to believe that in that Buffalo game where he was stumbling after that hit to the head, that he might have had a concussion then. So it's really hard to say how many concussions he's truly had. But on the record, he's been diagnosed officially with 2, one in the Bengals game, one in the Packers game, and now a third one here against the Bills in 2024. He sustained another concussion, which would be the third time the Buffalo Bills were responsible for a long-term injury for Tua Tagovailoa over the last 4 seasons. And somehow the Dolphins have to find a way to protect Tua against the Buffalo Bills. So that was the worst part of the news for the Miami Dolphins. And, you just don't know where they'll go from here. Obviously, he was given a big contract. So with that big contract comes expectations, and it's very likely Tua will want to continue his career so that he could earn that money in that contract that he signed for. But it's just a matter of, is that the best long-term plan for his health? Mike McDaniel said that he's no expert in the subject, but they want to make sure that Tua is properly evaluated before making any decisions. So we'll see what the Dolphin brain trust come up with. But this is something that they were clearly comfortable with after the 2022 season, because in 2023, he was able to stay healthy for 17 games. So that's where we are with Tua. There's a lot of uncertainty going forward. And it seems as though, at least as of right now, that Skylar Thompson will be heading the starting quarterback position for the Miami Dolphins. And I'm not sure if that's really sustainable for an entire season. We'll see where it goes. The Dolphins obviously had faith in Skylar Thompson, in which they released Mike White to become a free agent, and then he later on signed with the Buffalo Bills. So definitely the Dolphins feel comfortable enough to make Skylar Thompson their backup quarterback to Tua. I'm not sure if Skylar Thompson is someone they view as being a multi-week starter at the quarterback position. We'll see how that goes. But there were a lot of other injuries that took place during the game as well. But obviously, Tua is the headliner of this one. And you'd like to see Tua get back on the field as quickly as possible whenever he's medically cleared to do so. But, I don't think there's going to be any timetable on that, given that when he came back for the concussions again in 2022 after the Cincinnati game, he just didn't play as well as you probably thought he should. And especially in that game against the Packers, once he had that second head injury, it seemed like, he didn't really play well at all in the second half of that game. So we'll see where it goes on the Tua front. But in terms of other injuries, there were injuries to Teron Armstead. It seems like he left the game. And right after half, he was in for 2 plays. Then he had to have a shoulder harness fixed. And once they did that, he came back into the game for a couple of plays, but then he was ruled out of the game again because of the same shoulder harness. So maybe it was protecting a shoulder injury or what have you. But either way, Teron Armstead couldn't finish the game. Jeff Wilson sustained an oblique injury, so that's not ideal. It seems as though he wasn't able to go for the rest of the game, which forced Devon Achane to take on even more additional snaps. And, Devon Achane came into the game with an ankle injury himself. And, he was still able to touch the ball over 30 times. And he had a productive day doing so. But you would think with the amount of carries that he took, that he was relatively healthy coming into the game. But on a short week coming off an ankle injury, it seemed like Devon Achane got a lot of work in this game. As far as the wide receivers are concerned, the Dolphins were victims of 2 interceptions with tosses to both Robbie Chosen and Grant Dubose, 2 guys who were recently signed on August 28th and August 29th, respectively. And it's very difficult for Tua to have the kind of connection he has with those guys. I'm sure those guys get a limited amount of reps in practice. So the familiarity is just not really there between those guys. So, it's not a surprise that in a timing-based offense like the Dolphins have, where the Tua has to make, really good timing throws, that those guys were a little bit off. And if you're a little bit off in this offense, you're not where you're supposed to be when Tua releases the ball, it's going to result in turnovers. But the bigger surprise is, where was Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in the first half? It seems like for most of the game, they were like a disappearing act. Tyreek Hill wasn't really involved at all in the first half of the game. He had 1 deep shot that was thrown to him earlier where he was double covered that was incomplete. He had a couple of reverses and some runs that they gave him. But Tyreek Hill wasn't really involved in the offense, and I think it was more than whether the Bills took him away or not. It almost seemed like the game plan was a more run-centric game plan from Mike McDaniel that really relied upon them not going to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which was a bit surprising to me. Jonnu Smith did catch a couple of passes. He did get involved in a screen pass and a couple of passes over the middle, which was good for the offense. Again, Devon Achane was very productive on his touches, catching the ball in the middle of the field and on the perimeter of the field. He also ran the ball well in between the tackles and on the outside zone. So the Dolphins had some really good things going on, but those turnovers that the Dolphins made, they're very inexcusable turnovers given how they were thrown and the time of the game when they were thrown. And then, of course, you have the pick 6 that Tua threw, where it seemed as though he was trying to get out of the pocket and was flushed out and then threw an interception when he was really trying to throw the ball away. And some of that was the function of Teron Armstead not being in the game on that play. Kendall Lamb was inserted into the game at that point because Teron Armstead, again, had to leave the game because of the shoulder harness. So that left the left side of the offensive line vulnerable, and the Bills took complete advantage of it. And they attacked the Dolphins on that side of the line of scrimmage. And Tua tried to get the ball out again, but he just couldn't get it out of bounds in time. And then the defender came up there and picked it off and ran it back for pick 6. So that was really a back-breaking kind of play. It's not a play you ever want to see in the NFL, but it was Tua Tagovailoa's 3rd interception of the game. And it would have been really difficult for the Dolphins to overcome those 3 interceptions and win this game. So the Dolphins have a lot of work to do in this extended week. They have 10 days before they have to play the next game. So, they have a lot of things to shore up. They have to shore up the starting quarterback position. They have to reevaluate how they use their talent on offense. I don't know why guys like Grant Dubose and Robbie Chosen got such key targets in such crucial moments of the game. But, I made a video before on Mike McDaniel's personnel packages. And this is the kind of stuff I was talking about, right? Tua Tagovailoa throwing the ball to less experienced, less talented players, which often leads the Dolphins into trouble. And in this game, you're able to see it firsthand that these personnel packages that don't feature their best players end up with mixed results at best, poor results at worst. So it's not something I thought the Dolphins would really do this season after having gained so much talent in the offseason. But a lot of those guys like OBJ has been hurt, River Craycraft has been hurt. So they really had to force these guys into the lineup. And for some reason, Tua wasn't able to connect with them. So that didn't look good on the team, especially in a national broadcast game. It wasn't a good look at all. So the Dolphins have some soul searching to do. They'll have to look inside the mirror and find out what kind of season they plan to have in 2024. But on the surface right now, it seems as though it's going to be very difficult for them to really put forth the kind of effort that they would need to win the AFC East in 2024. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section, and I'll see you in the next video.